Hi, I'm Dr. Althea for the Learning Scientist, and in today's Office Hours video, I want to talk about the four-phase model of interest development and what you need to know in terms of teaching and learning at each stage of interest development. So the model I'll be discussing is by the researchers Hidi and Renninger, and their model stipulates that there's basically two different types of interest. There's situational interest, which is something that's very externally supported. It's interest that's triggered by something in the environment. You're interested in this thing because it was cool or neat in the moment, and it's something that you don't necessarily have a strong background in. On the other hand, we have well-developed situational interest, where you do have a much stronger background in something. So this is interest more of sort of a personal characteristic of somebody. So as a cognitive psychologist, I have an interest in psychology, right? That is something that I think is cool and neat, but I also have a strong background, knowledge, and expertise in, so I can engage with that topic area independently and in more meaningful ways. So in the four-phase model, it states that you kind of move through the four in order, and you need support and help to get through each phase. So the first phase, triggered situational interest. This is when there's something interesting or neat in the environment and it's triggered by something completely external from you, right? So this is like being interested in chemistry on the day when there's a really cool demonstration of like an explosion happening. Explosions are fun, right? So that is a very triggered situational interest situation. The only reason people are interested is because of the cool, neat explosion. And they may or may not want to learn about what happens behind that. So that's a triggered situational interest. If you are a teacher, there's nothing wrong with having cool, fun, neat demos or things that are interesting or relevant for people. But you need to be aware that that is just sort of like step one of several to engage people in some more meaningful learning. If you're a student, you should also be aware that while those things are fun and nice, it's also really great to have these other activities that are going to help support and develop your understanding of those things and to help you have a continued interest in something. So the next phase is maintained situational interest. So it's still situational, it's still somewhat external, but now you've had maybe multiple opportunities to re-engage with this information with the content area, maybe ask some questions, maybe do some independent thinking. Again, it's still going to be largely external. This is maybe something that you would be learning as part of a training, of a project. It's just something that people are kind of like talking about in the moment, right? There's maybe some external forces to explain why you keep reading up on this thing or asking questions about this thing or learning about this in some way, right? So as teachers, we need to be aware that, again, it's really important to help support any type of interest with follow-up activities to make sure that people are intentionally and purposefully re-engaging with material, and also understand that while people may have interest in this thing, at this point they don't really have a lot of tools for asking questions on their own and engaging with it. They don't have strong background knowledge, they don't have strong experience, so it's going to be really hard for them to maybe ask follow-up questions and really like engage with this thing in a meaningful way. They can do it, but we're kind of taking baby steps in that direction. The next phase is initial or sort of developing individual interest. So here we sort of mark a transition from something being primarily externally motivated to being more internally motivated. So here people can ask questions, meaningful questions about the thing that they're interested in. They can seek out more information. They can really kind of organize that information in a meaningful way because now they have a general framework to do that in. But they probably still need some help and guidance from an educator, a teacher, an expert, somebody who has that strong background knowledge that can answer the questions and kind of point them in the right direction. So again, as teachers, it's important to be aware that these students, these people are going to be a bit more intrinsically motivated. And while, again, they are highly interested and motivated, they are still going to need some help with that. And again, for people who are still in the learning process here, it's important to know that you need help, right? And it's okay to ask for help and that you are still kind of developing this. And eventually you'll get to the next stage, which is a well-developed interest. And now we're in the realm of saying, like, this is an interest I have, a hobby, right? A passion, something that you have followed up with for a long time. Here, the motivation to engage with this is almost entirely internal. This is something that you just think is cool and you enjoy learning about in your spare time, and you don't have to have some sort of external motivator in order to read about this or learn about this, right? It's still nice, right? We're never going to be, hopefully, at a stage where you shouldn't be talking to people, right? You should always be seeking out other experts, talking with people, sharing ideas. But this stage of interest is really going to be marked by a strong background knowledge and experience, and you are maybe becoming the expert in this area. But at any rate, you have a well-developed framework to understand ideas in, and to kind of make sense of things and ask important, meaningful questions about things that interest you. So that is the 4-phase model of interest development. Again, you move from triggered situational interest to maintained situational interest, to emerging individual interest, and then finally to well-developed or individual interest, where this is just a part of who you are now and something that you might tell people, oh, this is a thing I'm interested in. Again, I think this is interesting to know or important to know when you're going through teaching and learning, because it can really affect how you might approach teaching people at different levels of interest and background knowledge. It helps to explain why sometimes people are interested in things and that seems to make them better at learning it, and why other times that interest seems to fade, right? It may be that something that is interesting to someone is just kind of a triggered situational interest, which is not bad. It's just sort of the initial stage in that journey, as opposed to someone saying, oh no, that was really interesting because I actually have a fair degree of understanding about that, and some knowledge to bring the situation, right? So it helps it kind of a little bit make sense of the differences between interest, background knowledge, it may be attention, and how all of these things work together when people are interested in something. So I hope that was interesting for you.